Hello, and welcome to GCMS Podcast. I am author Tanisha R. Franklin, the author of the series God Changed My Story, and this is my co-host, Miss Cynthia Best.
Yes, hello everyone.
I'm sorry, let me correct that. I'm sorry, she is an author too. So, we are so excited to be recording tonight. We are on our 5th episode, y'all. Yes, 5 being grace.
Yeah. And we need it.
Yes. And tonight, y'all, we have a guest speaker, which we will introduce in a second. Yes. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I cannot.
It's going to be powerful. This is going to be epic. Really, really.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. And like she said, it's going to be epic, and she is an amazing, powerful woman of God. We will introduce her here shortly. Before we get to that, we just want to say, don't forget to follow us on the Facebook, IG, and TikTok page at God Changed My Story. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at GCMS, which is CAPS. God Changed My Story for more information on our podcast and on our books. So, every month we want to acknowledge the Awareness Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Y'all know what it means to me. I'm wearing my shirt. It is okay not to be okay. Y'all, if you have purchased my book or read my book, you know that I talked about the story of my oldest son going through mental health. So because of this month being Mental Health Awareness Month, please check out our Facebook page. We are going to relist the 2 episodes on last year in May and November. May was my son CJ telling his testimony. Y'all know when I get to talk about it, I tell mom's part, not his part. But he came on last year in May and he told his testimony for the second time, which was amazing. And also, we had Miss Jamie Dalton on in November of 2025 talking about her organization, I Matter, We Matter. So please check those out on our Facebook page and get more information on her organization. It is a free group where you can go and you can talk about things that are going on. Because you have to remember, it is okay not to be okay. There's nothing wrong when things are going on. We need to talk about it. So I don't want to spend my whole time talking about that because this episode is all about our guest speaker. I'm going to let Miss Author Cynthia Best introduce her.
So before we get started, we have a guest speaker tonight. This amazing, wonderful woman of God is on tonight to tell us about how God changed her story. She's a devoted Christian, an avid student of the Bible, and a firm believer in the transformation power of faith. She has a servant's heart and is happiest when teaching and sharing God's word with others. Her passion is to encourage women to remain faithful to God through all of life's moments. Through her captivity storytelling, the author shares her personal journey. Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. The author shares her personal journey and Christian life lesson. She writes a monthly newsletter and is the author of 2 books, Broken Clay, Finding Renewal in the Potter's Hands, and Trusting God, 5 Characteristics for Christian Living. Tika's writing also appears in the devotional anthologies Elroy. I thought so. The God Who Sees, and Glimpses of God's Banquet Table. Her memoir, Broken Clay, Finding Renewal in the Potter's Hand, is a heartfelt journey through loss, grief, and divorce. Her inspiring story is a powerful reminder that God's presence endures in the face of adversities. The devotions in Trust God encourage readers to trust God in every aspect of their lives. Tika finds happiness as a cat mom. She says a cat mom to Sasha and Bella. To Sasha and Bella. When she's not working, writing, or spending time with her fur babies, she enjoys exploring Michigan's natural beauty and marveling at God's creation. She has a particular fondness for bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Her other interests include biking, reading, and traveling. And to learn more about Tika, you can at the end, we'll give her information, and you'll be able to see how you can get in contact with her. But without further ado, I'm ready to get into this because this book was awesome. I did not put it down until I got to the end. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome Miss Tika McCoy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, we are so excited to have you on. I have been waiting for this moment. This book, which I'm just going to do a glimpse of it, Broken Clay. So check it out. We will give information at the end, but we are going to let her talk more about Broken Clay and her story and how she wrote this book out. It is amazing.
Thank you. So, my story is, and I talk about this in the beginning of the book, but my story is one of those where I really had no complaints growing up. I had a great childhood. My parents were loving and supportive. And when I got married, I just thought that, I would have this great marriage like my parents, and we would live happily ever after. And so I really didn't have a lot of challenges and struggles growing up. And so when things began to happen in my marriage, I struggled. I didn't know how to handle all of the drama that was coming because I was never equipped with any of that. And so as my life began to unravel, I was in, so you know how you have that fight, flight, or freeze. And I think now they added fawn.
Yeah.
I was fighting, y'all. I was fighting. And we'll get to this later. But that's one of the things that God changed about me. I no longer have the need or the desire to fight. I know that God is fighting for me. I know He is taking care of everything for me. But in the middle of that marriage, when things were falling apart and I was, trying to talk to my husband, trying to save my marriage, trying to find out what's happening with this other woman, we were doing some serious fighting. And when I look back on that, I just thought about like how dangerous it was. I thank God that He brought me through that with my life. Intact, because it was just too much. But after I came through all of that, I knew that it was God who saved me. I knew it was God who got me out. And I believe in marriage. I'm not saying that I don't, right? I believe in marriage. But it was no longer good. And I knew that it was God that saved me. And I had to tell everyone about it. It's one of those where, and I tell people, it was like a childlike wonder because it was nothing I did. I wanted to be mad. That's a weird thing to say, but I wanted to be mad. I wanted to fight. And when I finally cried out to God, it changed. And it was nothing that I did. And so I had to tell everyone that if I could go through the things that I went through and come out on the other side full of joy and peace and happiness and living for the Lord, you can too. So I just had to share it.
But in your going through, it cost you some things. And we'll dive into that a little bit later. Things that I don't think you ever thought you would find yourself in a situation dealing with, the law. So it cost you, a great deal. But one of the things that I really want you to harness in on more in the book, you talk about no one knew the hurt I carried. And you said perhaps people also looked at me and assumed I had it all together. This is the kicker right here for me. You said I did an excellent job of hiding my trauma.
I went to work every day. And there were some days, because I was up at night tossing and turning or up at night fighting, there were some days on my lunch hour, I had to go out in the car and sleep. I would set my timer for like 25 minutes and, take a 25-minute nap. But I showed up to work every day with a smile on my face. At family events, I showed up with a smile. And it's interesting because as things were getting bad, people would ask, "Where's Jerry?" When we would go to dinner or when there was an event, I would say, "Oh, he's working. And part of it, and you may understand this, so even though we were going through all of that, I wanted to save my marriage. And I was very, very aware of not sharing too much with my family because if it worked out, right? Because we know how it is. Our family and friends aren't as forgiving, right? And so if it worked out, I would have still been madly in love with him, where everybody else would have been like, well, what he doing here on Christmas?
Right.
Right. So I hid all of that, and it was exhausting because I didn't sleep. But I held up that image because I did want it to work. I didn't want anyone to say anything negative to him. And in a sense, as crazy as it sounds, I was protecting him.
Still protecting
I was protecting
and isn't
him.
that something that wives and women do, you know?
But I think sometimes I could see, because you had that in your family, you seen that. So I'm pretty sure at times you didn't see your mom and dad going out talking.
Right.
You know, but they protected each other.
Yes.
You know, but also there comes a time where you have to talk about it. But because I know you said in the book, at that time you went to church, but then you experienced that church hurt where something happened in your church. So you didn't know who to go to talk to.
Exactly.
To be able to, or even get that relationship with God where God would tell you things, you know. Yes, marriages, is great. I love my husband, but we've had, you know, we went to my second book. I talked about things that we experienced, you know, and I wish I had known about this book a long time ago, because I was that person that went to my friends and doing all of this, and then it wasn't that they may still talk about it now, you know, now that we're doing better where they don't want us to be, but it wasn't that I didn't know not to go do that. I needed somebody to say, well, you don't need to talk about it.
Right.
So, you know, it was okay that you did talk about it. It was just that you didn't have God there, like you said in the book. If you'd had God in the book, he would have said, go talk to sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so.
And then she states in the book that she didn't know at the time to pray for that. And see, you know, she went to church. Her aunt, her sister-in-law, and different other ones. You know, she went to church. And I've always said that there's a vast difference in growing up in the church as opposed to those that, you know, come to Christ, you know, or discover Christ on their own. You said things had gotten so bad between you and Jerry, that you were, y'all was incapable of caring for or being kind to one another. Talk to us about how, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, so if it's not working, if it comes to the point where we're being, you know, intentional in trying to hurt one another or just not being respectful, then me personally, I will remove myself. But again, you said you wanted to salvage your marriage. How can you see saving that in the midst of when you say y'all wasn't even capable of just being kind?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I didn't know that at the time, but now, like post healing, I realized that I was hanging on to the memories when things were good. So even though we were in the midst of chaos, we were in the midst of, we physically fought, we were tearing up furniture, we were in the midst of that, I was hanging on to when things were good.
Okay.
And I was hanging on to when we loved one another, when we did care, and thinking that we could get back there, not realizing that there was no going back. There was no going back at all. And I know we'll, you know, probably get to this a little later, but I remember, and Jerry would always say, when we would get into arguments, I'll never leave my family. And that just would, I would just blow up when he said that. And I would say, you think that's chivalrous? And, but when I finally told him I was filing for divorce, I kid you not, that man had a look of relief on his face.
He didn't want to be the one.
He didn't want to be the one.
He didn't want to be the one. And at that moment, I realized he was waiting for me. Perhaps he was making it so ugly that, okay, Tika, she gonna finally leave now.
Yeah.
Tika gonna finally leave now. Tika gonna finally leave now. And I never did.
And because he knew he wasn't doing right by you, he wanted you to be the one to pull the plug on, you know, the marriage and things of that nature. Something your father has drilled in you for as long as you can remember. And I quote, you say, your father has always said this to me. At the end of the day, you can only depend on yourself. Tell us how that strong sense of reality, truth, you know, helped you to navigate out of fog and everything that you was experiencing, not just with Jerry and the marriage. And later on, you begin to tell about how things happen in threes. And oh boy, did it happen in three.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it was one dynamic after the next, So tell us how that statement that your father would always say to you helped you.
It's one that I realized that if I was going to eventually make it out of that marriage, I was going to have to be the one to do it. I wasn't able to depend on Jerry anymore. And there were various points, and I even mentioned that in the book, where I realized that he just didn't love me anymore. And so
did he? Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't mean to cut you off, because as you navigate towards the end of the book and the story, I felt that y'all love was still there, that it hadn't.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's so true. Okay, that's true. And you're right. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I felt that he didn't love me anymore. But as I was beginning to navigate, and I speak to this a little bit in the book also, as I began to realize I don't think this marriage is going to make it, I began to prepare myself. Right? I began to, I started a meetup club. I began to start to do things on my own. And it was that phrase from my father, you can only depend on yourself. I had to do those things. I eventually had to go to a restaurant by myself. And when I tell you I left that place crying, but
tell me why though. Why the emotional aspect? Because a lot of people say, well, I can't go and eat by myself, or I need this person, I need that person. But I find that I enjoy, and you can chime in on this.
And I was saying that, I think that until you have done it, there were times where I think when I first beginning of my marriage, I was like, I'm just going to go eat by myself and read a book. I thought like, I need my husband to go. I want someone to go. I need a girlfriend. But when I did, it was so much peace, because a lot of times we are not taught self-care. At least I know me growing up, it was no self-care. You got to be the mama, you got to be the wife. It was never saying take time for yourself. So when I took that time, it was like,
but it was peace for you. Why did you leave the restaurant crying? Why was you so emotional?
I had never done really anything alone. So I was one of those that truly left my father's house and got married. And Jerry and I, we met at 15, so we were joined at the hip. So everything I did was with someone. It was either with my family or with him. So when I went to that restaurant, it's funny because I remember the hostess said, how many? And I said one. And I remember her saying just one. And I just remember getting a lump in my throat. And I was like, oh. And then when I sat down, and was, looking around at people. And that was a thing that I did too. I would absorb couples and families, and, that kind of brought anxiety to me. But I remember sitting there thinking people were watching me because I'm a people watcher. Thinking they were watching me. And I eventually had her, box up my food, and I, was crying. But it took me time to eventually enjoy it. It took me time to eventually get to the point where I could take a book. And going back to your question with my dad saying at the end of the day, you can only depend on yourself. I eventually took a solo vacation. So things that I had to learn to depend on myself. So if my girlfriends couldn't go, or if I couldn't go with my family, I knew that at some point this was something that I was going to have to do. So, and his words still resonate with me as I think about as I'm navigating life. That because sometimes we can get hung up on, well, if I don't have anybody to go to the movie with, or if I don't have anyone to go to a concert, I don't want to go.
I know somebody like that, just codependent on, me in general, or other people and their codependencies, and they really function like that, incapable of, branching out and doing things on their own. I want to get to, you had a question?
No, I was just saying, I think that codependent comes from, too, your relationship with God. Because when I didn't have that relationship, I think last year was my first time leaving. I was like, me and my son went to California. I was like, my husband couldn't go. He couldn't go. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't ever drive anywhere. I don't drive anywhere. This is all he do. We get off the plane, he get the car, he drive everywhere. But I could hear God say, get ready because I got more work for you, and it's gonna be times you're gonna go by yourself. And I took that with me, but it was because if I didn't have the relationship with God, I probably wouldn't be that codependent. You know, that's where it came from. But I was just saying, you know, this, you know, with her stories coming in, now you're seeing that breaking loose when you get that relationship is things that you can do by yourself because he's there.
He's there, never alone, and
never alone.
Yes. So
I thought the book is phenomenal.
Yes,
you know,
it
so
is.
please get the book and read it. How do I want to say this? So, the Bible says, if you seek, you shall find, right? So let's talk about that in the natural aspect. It wasn't that you was really seeking at that point. You had an intuition, and you knew something was off with Jerry. His patterns, his behavior, things had started to change. But it did come almost to a point where you went seeking.
Yes.
And you found what you really were looking for.
You thought you wanted it, right? You didn't. Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes, that got me. I was in my son at school. I was like, what time is it? I got 10 minutes to get through this. Yes. I was saying not that it was like it was good, but I want to dwell on you because this is your story. But you know, you're like read books of people you don't know, right? That really had me be Cisco. I'll talk about later. Just to talk about that. I'll chime in on after you get done because it's so good. Oh my God.
It is good.
So I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship or a situation where you know in your heart someone is lying, but you desperately want to believe them.
Yeah.
And so there were, you know, many times when I just wanted to believe him because I loved him so much. But at the same time, I knew it was a lie. Yeah. And, you know, and even sometimes the stories that he would tell me in terms of where he was so convincing, you know. And then there were times when I would think, well, Tika, maybe you are wrong.
Yeah, you tripping. No, I said, maybe I'm tripping.
Maybe I'm tripping.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he would constantly deny the affair. He would constantly deny it. And I remember at times telling him, you know, if you want out, just tell me. It's going to hurt me. But if that's truly what you want, just let me know. No, I'll never leave my family. So, you know, we're going through all of that back and forth. I just couldn't sleep at night. I remember, Google's a mess.
Yes.
Googling, you know, how to find out if your husband cheating, you know what?
Yeah.
So I was going through all of that, and I was debating, do I hire a private investigator? Do I follow him? Yeah. But then if he see me, it's going to be, you know, a mess.
Yes.
And in my Google search, I came upon a site for spyware.
No, not spyware.
Spyware on this site, and you know, you can buy all these trackers, and I found one, and it talked about how parents, you know, this particular one was small enough where parents could put it like in their kids' backpacks if they wanted to know where they were. And I remember, you know, thinking, no, I'm not going to do it. And then there was one time he just went off the grid. It was probably 8 hours. I hadn't heard from him. I went back to that site and ordered this tracker. And it's funny because I had the tracker sent to my parents' house.
Bro, yeah, you did say that.
Yes.
I go to my parents' house. I'm sitting on the porch, and they're like, you got a package in here. I said, oh, and here's how devious I was, so that the enemy was really controlling my thoughts, because then I lied to my parents. And, you know, even thinking back, like how desperate I was. And at that moment, had I confided in my parents, they would have counseled me.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was on a mission.
Yeah, you was.
I was on a mission. And I remember even feeling sick afterwards. But I started tracking the man. And it wasn't, my intent wasn't to have any type of interaction with the other woman. That was not my intent at all. My intent was to be...
I can't tell.
I know.
I can't tell.
It might have just been the fact that when you see that truck, look, and so she was like, you know what?
That door.
I think it was that truck. It was like, cause oh man, we'll get when that. Yes, it seemed like that truck when you like, oh wait,
this is really
okay. And then the fact that he didn't come out, I think that's what that tension went up. I was like, ooh, because I thought in the book, I'm like, he gonna come out, right? He couldn't know.
No, he wasn't coming. He didn't want that smoke. No, he didn't want it.
He probably was like, wait, oh my God, is that my wife? I'm sorry, but no, yeah.
But this is how bad I was. So I lied to my parents, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I know this now. God gives us opportunities to get out.
Mm-hmm. He does.
Right? Mm-hmm. He gives us opportunities. I lied to my parents. Mm-hmm. That was an opportunity for me not to do it.
Yeah.
I was at work. Mm-hmm. Then I lied to my job and tell them I'm sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So within like a week span, here I am telling lies, and I'm condemning him for lying and being deceptive. And here I am doing the exact same thing.
But you couldn't see it then.
I could not see it then.
Because you only seen his wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't, when somebody is wronging us, sometimes two wrongs, like I said, two wrongs don't make it right. But you still don't see your wrong because he did that.
Because he did that.
Had the right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when I left my job and I talk about how I was like, basically running lights. I was just in a rush. I was in a rush to get there because I wanted to catch him. And like I said in the beginning, I wanted to fight. Mm-hmm. I was, that was my only defense mechanism, even though I couldn't fight him.
Yeah.
But my mouth, if I threw some dishes or whatever, and so my intent really was to catch him and say, you lying? Mm-hmm. I knew, but I get there because I see his truck. And I don't necessarily know which house. So the tracker, lets you know where the car is. And I could follow the streets where he was. But I didn't necessarily know the house. And y'all, when I just think back, that God was protecting me.
Yes.
Through our craziness.
Yes.
When I think back to how he was protecting me. Because no one knew where I was. Mm-hmm. And I am banging on random doors.
Yeah.
In America, where, 1 out of 3 people got guns.
Yeah.
And I just think back that, Lord, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping me and protecting me because anything could have happened to me in that moment. But I was so in a rage. And when people say that they black out, I know what that feels like. And so I'm in a rage. And the neighbors are probably looking like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is this woman? And good thing it happened then and not in the age with the cell phone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you would have got back to your mom and friends before you would have got out.
All over the internet.
All over the internet. It would have been on Wood TV. It would have been everywhere.
I want to know. I want to know because you and Jerry, it didn't just happen like that overnight. Y'all were good. And I know you talk about, his mother passing and his grandmother passing, which led him down a path to probably to where it was conducive to, what was taking place in your marriage. But do you think at the time that could have been something that could have worked out had Jerry been honest about, his doings and things of that nature?
Yeah, and I know that he, was dealing with a lot of grief, and I remember one time when I was trying to, console him after his mom died. And I remember him saying, you don't understand, your mother is still here. So my mom was still alive at the time. And I remember thinking, like, is he mad at me because I still have my mom? But the other thing is he never drank. His family had a history of alcohol and drug abuse. And so when we would go to parties and family events, he always would have a Coke, right? Or, he would have a Sprite and everybody else would be drinking and laughing. And I would always, admire him for not,
indulging,
Yeah.
feeling like he had to because
that he had to fit in,
Yeah.
right? And so when he started drinking, that's when I knew, okay, something is really happening here. And I, wanted him to seek help, but, everyone handles grief in their own way.
Yes.
And men are different, right? Women sometimes, will, with our sister girls, sometimes we'll talk, and men don't always open up that way. So I just think it was a lot with him, losing his mom and, not really having that relationship that he wanted with her. And then his grandmother, like 6 months later, he just found an escape in alcohol. And like I said in the book, I don't know what came first, the woman or the alcohol. I don't know which came first.
Right.
But he just went down that spiral of self-destruction. And I remember when I finally admitted to my brothers, like once I finally admitted that he had been having an affair and I was filing for divorce. And I remember them saying, he's our brother. We love him. We're going to call him and talk to him, because they're like, as men, we can. Yeah. But he never like answered their calls. And so, when people don't want help,
and stay in that woe is me, and,
right?
The not so much the victim mentality, and until you lose your parents, you really don't know what the other person feels and is dealing with. And my mom died in 2016. 3 days before Christmas. So that time of the year always brings back certain memories. But I want to transition because you say everything happens in threes. So you had the situation with your husband. You was going through a divorce, which was very traumatic. Not just that, you end up in trouble in the midst of trying to find out the truth and concerning Jerry, your husband. But then another thing happened that really challenged your faith. And tell us about that second thing. Because Jerry was the first one.
He was the first. And when my mom passed. And it was in the midst of Jerry and I still, dealing with a lot of drama. And I was grieving my mom, but not where I thought that I should. I felt guilty.
I thought that was interesting that you...
I was... I'm the only girl, the baby girl. And so my mom and I were thick as thieves, right? We in the house with all these men. And so my mom and I were super close. We talked all day, every day. And when she passed, and because I was still consumed with Jerry, there were times I would be grieving my mom, and then my mind would go back to him. And I felt guilty. I was like, he doesn't deserve that. I should be focusing on my mom. And it was just such a struggle. I had this internal struggle that I felt like I never truly grieved her because I was still fighting in my marriage. But as we started like planning her funeral, and I just, could hear my mom saying, girl, you know what you got to do. Get going with this. Take care of some, get this business taken care of. You can do it. But I carried a lot of guilt for a long time that I felt that I was putting him above my mother.
But at the time you couldn't see that you was acting out of your trauma, and you was acting off of your emotions. And I can see where the guilt comes in at, as far as not grieving, your mother in the normal or capacity that you would think one would, especially since y'all was so close. But that whole marriage thing with Jerry totally consumed you. It took everything. You out of your character, so to speak.
It really did.
What would you say to any wife that may be dealing with some of the similar situations that you had with Jerry? Right now, what would you say to them?
Yeah. And it's funny because I remember when everything was happening and I called his best friend, one of his best friends who he looked up to, who he admired, and I called behind his back. So when they came over, Jerry was fit to be tied, that I shared what was happening with his best friend.
Yeah.
But I remember he said to us, he said, before I ask either of you any questions, I just want to know, is God the head of your marriage? And he said, if God is the head of your marriage, you will make it. If he's not, he won't. And I didn't understand that at the time.
Yes.
But what I would tell anyone that is going through it, where are you in your relationship with Christ? And where are you in your prayer life? Because I didn't pray for, when Jerry was grieving, I didn't pray for him. I was trying to fix it. Right? I didn't pray for him. I didn't pray for myself. I was too busy fighting. I didn't pray for our marriage. I didn't know the power of prayer. And so what I would tell anyone that's going through that, see where your relationship with Christ is, and cry out to him, because then he's going to guide your heart.
Right.
And he's going to guide your heart in such a way that you're not going to fall into those destructive patterns. Right. So your relationship with Christ, and pray. And the other thing that I would tell everyone is, you can't save your partner, only Christ can.
That part.
That is good, yes.
Only Christ can. And of course, I didn't learn that until afterwards. But trying to save him and basically just damaging myself, because I was going down a path of self-destruction with him. Yeah. So I would tell everyone, make sure that your relationship with Christ is solid.
Yes.
And that you are praying, and that you, if you can, to seek Christian counseling from someone that will, truly speak Christ into you. Because that's something that we did not have.
But y'all tried counseling.
We tried counseling. Well, I tried counseling.
Okay.
And, he just went and he stormed out like within the first 10 minutes or so. And I think he went probably just to kind of shut me up. But I remember, like, after that session, thinking too that I'm going to need something for me. It took me a little while to get there. It wasn't until like after my mom passed that I finally was, looking to go to counseling. But if you can, do it. Because it, and that's the thing too. Sometimes as believers, we think that we shouldn't. And we need Christ. And a therapist. And it helps us to manage and navigate our life. So
that is good, yes.
You said also one of the things you didn't know. You said, had you known to pray about your marriage and God, you would have prayed that prayer. But you said you came crawling back to God when you needed Him. You know what I'm saying? So you wasn't ignorant of who God and Christ and Jesus is. After, let's talk about the church hurt, because so many people experience that. And that's one of the things that happened to you and Jerry, to where y'all just never went back. Yeah. And had you had that firm foundation still in place, the testing of anything or everything to see how it's structured, the foundation, you're going to go through some things, right? And the foundation for you and Jerry, you come to find out that it wasn't that solid as you thought. But had you remained faithful in attending church and getting the word and seeking, a little solace in Christian counseling, maybe you would have had a different result. Then he goes on to quote one of my favorite scriptures, Jeremiah 29:11, that I know the plans and the thoughts that I have for you, declares the Lord. But through all of that, you still was trying to that whole, and I haven't experienced that, so I can't really, I was trying to relate to your actions and your behaviors and why you did. So I was trying to understand why you did some of the things that you did, and why as a wife would you go, if you knew it, you just had to have the final information as to what you felt you was feeling was true. I don't think I would have went in pursuit of looking for that information. But you did, even though I probably had an inkling that this was happening and going on. But you wasn't satisfied with that. You really went on a hunter's journey to find the truth. And in going to that truth, speak about how that led you in a place to where you never thought you would be, and to a place of shame that you thought you brought to your family and your parents and things to that nature.
Ooh, okay, so,
because I'm like, what is she doing? No, don't do that.
I know what? I can I'm not saying I can relate to it, because my mind, when I did it, like she said, I wasn't with Christ either. But then, like, when I think back, I was like, I was so dumb. You were so, crazy. Especially my oldest son's father. Like, I did those things. I wasn't married, but I did it. It was just that rage, because where I came up from, I didn't come up from the perfect marriage. I had my grandmother and my aunt they're from California. They telling you about where they came from, telling you about these Crips and all this. And they were, like, tough women. So, like, I seen that growing up. So I thought I had to be that person. So I was like the opposite of you. I didn't see it, but I still felt like if I wasn't that person, I was trying to be the good person. But then I'm like, well, no, because if I'm the good person, I'm soft. But when I read it, I was like, ooh.
I was like, don't do that.
I had done those.
No, she didn't. Oh, my God, you're going to jail. Oh, my God.
Yes.
I was in the office tripping. I'm like, oh, no,
but see, my things, I never got caught. I did it maybe it just never came about to where I came face to face with the opposite female. It's always I've come face to face with him.
But I guess I couldn't. You knew it in your heart. And one thing about a woman, when we zero in on something, we ain't really got to have you to say yes, because we've already determined that this is the, you know what I'm saying?
And it's the after fact. It's wrong.
You knew, but you also had to have that validity. And that probably was one of the things you shouldn't have did.
I didn't say it was right. But I understood it. I was like, but then I'll let you get into that part, because when I was like, I ain't get to that. I ain't get that.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yes, had to be a hard right there.
It was hard. And when I was arrested, and I had to spend a night in jail, and it was the most embarrassing thing ever. But this is kind of funny, though. When I was in the police car when they were taking me to the county, and I remember sitting in the back seat thinking, because you watch all these movies, and I remember thinking, what if somebody try to fight me? What am I gonna do? Because I'm already saying in my mind, I know I'm gonna tell the judge, like, I'm a good girl, I've never been in trouble. Right. But when I get there and, like, they take you to different places to take your picture, and, you change clothes. When they told me to change clothes, I was like, wait, I'm staying? Like,
yes.
But people were laughing at me in different. So then I was like, nobody's going to try to fight me. But that next day when my brother came and picked me up, and he said, we call my father Locke. That was his nickname. He said, Mama Locke want to see you. And then, my heart just fell. And I said, let me go home, shower, feed my dogs, and I'll go over there. And I walk in, and they sitting at the kitchen table. That kitchen table where, all of my values and ethics came from. Okay. That kitchen table where, we talk politics and, we talk dreams and goals. Yeah. And I saw the look of hurt on their face. And I remember telling my dad, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disappoint y'all. And he said, we're not disappointed, we just want to know what happened so we can help you. And that's the type of parents that I had. But as crazy as that situation was, I thank God for it, because that is what finally moved me to cry out to God. That's what finally
that breaking
moment, because and I just remember crying out to him that night that I got home. Lord, if he's ever with this woman again, give me the strength. Give me the strength. And y'all, I remember when I said that, I wasn't like on my knees. I wasn't prostrate. I didn't even say amen. But, fast forward 4 months when I saw that he was with her again. And God gave me the strength to file for that divorce. And it's crazy because I filled out the divorce papers at work. I drove to the county clerk's office. I cried the entire way there. I cried the entire way back. When I texted him and told him I had divorce papers on the dining room table, I cried. When we were in the courtroom, I cried. So even though I was still hurt that this was happening, God strengthened me through every single step. Had I not went to Google and found spyware and showed up at that woman's house,
you still would have been having
and gotten arrested. And when I got arrested, and he knew the type of person that I was, and the fact that he would go back to that woman, and how humiliating it was for me to be in jail, to be fingerprinted, to have my picture taken, and he was with her again. And that was my cry out to God. And I've been crying out to the Lord ever since, and He's been strengthening me ever since and keeping me. And the way that He changed my life is I know I no longer have to fight. I don't want to fight. I know to be silent. And I know when things are coming my way, if somebody's calling me or coming to tell me something, I don't engage. I don't gossip about it. I'm not getting angry because I know God has me. And so that's how He changed my life, and I'm so thankful for that. And if it wasn't for that crazy moment, if it wasn't,
that was crazy.
It was crazy, and I think that God had to totally break me down.
And you mentioned that humbling God, being humbled, God humbling you, and that was one of the things that God used to humble you. This book is phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
And thank you for sharing your story, because it's not easy to be transparent about the things that you have faced and the things that you have done. A lot of people want to hide behind a mask and a screen. She sits here, make no mistakes about it. She's very intelligent, highly educated. She has a master's degree. So, and you would think that, like you said in your book, everybody thought you had everything together, but didn't know the hurt and the breakage and the pain that you was dealing with day in, night out. You know what I'm saying? And you hit it. You said it yourself. I hit my trauma very well. If you had to go back and do it again, would you do it differently?
That's a good question, and it's a hard question because my relationship with Christ, it wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah, it came about out of
right. It came about as all of that. I had to go through all of those losses. I had to go through all of those trials. I had to go through all of that to put Christ first.
Yes.
So as hard as it was, as crazy as that time was, I wouldn't change it because it was my journey. It was my journey.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, had Jerry and I worked it out, I don't even know if we would have made it into the church. And so the fact that our marriage ended, it strengthened my relationship with Christ. And I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. So
a lot of people, not that out of infidelity a marriage can be savage, but it really takes a lot of work from both parties to really get that thing beyond that place. Even if it had worked out, in your mind, you still would have been reliving and acting out the fact that, you know what I'm saying, He caused this breakage in the covenant. And so it probably wouldn't have been the same. So it seems like divorce probably would have been inevitable because He's not going to take responsibility, and you can't forget. Right? So you say everything happens in threes, but I find in your book that it was 4.
Yeah.
And like you said, the loss. I don't know. I've had a hard time dealing with my mom's passing. And I'm having a super hard time dealing with my sister's unexpected death, right? But I can't imagine, like, just you had 1, 2, 3, just right after.
Back to back.
Back to back to back to back. Outside of your strength and your confidence in God, what else? Who else helped you, get past these or face, all this stuff? Because it was like, you should have been somewhere sitting in the corner rocking.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Or out at Pine Rest. And you did seek counseling out there at Pine Rest. But to experience those amount of loss, and it didn't seem like it was a whole lot of space and time in between, you know, everything that kept happening. How are you here sitting with us today, talking about it?
Christ and my father. My father was the rock that when my mom passed, when I got a divorce, when my brother passed, my father was that rock. And he was all about family, and he would always say, you know, we're all we have, you're all each other have, and he would talk to my remaining brothers about that. So it was my dad.
That was good too, because I read in the book where your father said that. Okay, your father said that because your mom passed, we're still going to be a family. We're still going to do those things. We don't have the time to get into everything because I have a lot of questions. Because this book, I'm
we're going to bring you back.
I
think we're going to have to
I kid you not. This book is phenomenal. And when I say it's a page turner, I didn't stop until I got to the end. And I was glad that I was in my office and alone and no one can bother me and things of that nature, because this book really is phenomenal. It takes you through her journey, and then at the end she comes to have that relationship, her prayer life and her relationship in one-on-one blossomed in the midst of all that that was going on. So we want to give you the space and opportunity, and our finals, our producer has told us that our time is short. So we want to give you the space to, you know, whatever it is you want to say, whatever message you want to get out there, whatever.
And also let them know where to find this book.
And where to find you.
And more information on you and to follow you, because you are at so many events, like so many events where they can come.
Oh yeah, this is
get the book. They can come and talk to you personally if they have questions.
Yeah. So my website is tikamccoy.com. I do a monthly newsletter also. So I talk about various topical situations that are happening in life, sometimes things that are inspiring to me, and I make sure that I have biblical perspective in there. So you can subscribe to my newsletter, my book, Broken Clay, Finding Renewal in the Potter's Hand. You can find my website, tikamccoy.com. And I do. I go to book shows. I go to different book events.
So follow her on her Facebook page. And subscribe to that newsletter.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna subscribe. I'm like Cisco and Ebers. If I had more thumbs, they'd be up. You know what I'm saying? Phenomenal.
Powerful story.
And the journey that. And she came out better. You know what I'm saying? Came out better on the other side. But the loss that she suffered. In the midst of it. I'm pretty amazed that you're sitting here today to tell the story, and it is a true evidence of Jeremiah 29.
So we are going to wrap it up. I really don't want to wrap it up because this has been so good. Oh my goodness.
I got more. I mean, for real.
This has been so good. I do not want to wrap this up, but yes, we have been reminded twice that our time is up. So, so we want to wrap it up. So please check out her website. If you did not get that information, you can go to our Facebook page. We will list her website and all her information on there for you to follow her. And to find her book. So please, I am telling y'all to purchase this book.
Link up. Link up. This is a powerful woman that her story, it has encouraged and inspired me. And I'm like, wow.
Powerful book.
So I can't wait to get her other readings.
Me neither, Very powerful book, and we just thank you so much, Miss Tika McCoy.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
So please check us out next month. You can find us on our YouTube channel at GCMS, capitalized God Changed My Story, and we pray that you guys have a wonderful and blessed night.
Don't forget to like and share. And share and subscribe to the channel God Changed My Story. Miss Tika. Tika McCoy.
Thank you.
Powerful. I definitely gotta stay linked.
Yes.